What she just said was that she believes that this is directly related to loving our neighbor. And that rationale right there gives anyone license to do anything that they so fancy if it falls under the guise of, I believe this is loving my neighbor.
Welcome to another episode of the Carpe Fide podcast, where if the shoe fits, you wear it.
And if the truth hurts, you bear it.
I am Justin Gruber.
And I am Jesse Gruber.
And today we hope you will seize the faith. Welcome to another episode of the Carpe Fide podcast. We have reached episode 102. Dun, dun, dun.
We are 18 years away from the prescribed limit of age that God gave to humankind post the flood.
120?
Yeah, I think it was that. I don't know. That's what they taught me.
Had to do math and stuff.
That's what they taught me in Christian school.
Oh, man. Well,
speaking of schools.
KJV only. Christian school. Back in the day. Hey, man, we came away from our Christian education much more.
Way better than I.
It could have been way. It's amazing.
Woo.
By the grace of God and also His Word. You know, His Word was there and stuff.
Man, I got to college and I'm like, man, I didn't think I was smart, but compared to these guys, my teacher must like me.
Speaking of education, nice segue.
Yeah, man, no problem.
We are going to be discussing tonight. Well, we're a little behind, but we're going to discuss Jen Wilkin and the Gospel Coalition's, I guess, good faith debate on education. I guess it's what we call it. They were looking at how do you educate your kids, and they had Jen Wilkin and these two other dudes,
Mm-hmm.
and they were good. It was they were great. Jen Wilkin said things, and we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, things were said very gently, mildly, and meekly.
Yeah, we're gonna try to break
perhaps
this.
even gently and lowly. Lowly,
meek and mild, gentle and lowly,
like a child.
Yes. God of angel armies.
What? Is that the same song?
No, it's just contrasting the two ideas.
Oh. I don't think that's the same song.
So we're going to try to break this up into two episodes. We're going to address, generally speaking, the two positions taken in the introduction here.
The opening arguments, if you will.
Yeah.
If you could call this a debate, they would be called opening arguments.
Right, but this is much more of a gentle push-pull conversation.
Hey, let's grab a latte and skinny jeans and chat.
And they're going to outline their positions, and we'll talk. We can talk probably just from there for this episode, and then we'll go into more when they break down into these, what I would call these nuanced topics.
Noir.
Yeah, where they're kind of going back and forth, but it exposes a little more of the application of their starting framework, I think, when you look at these next questions. But there's plenty to deal with just in unpacking their main premises. Agreed?
Agreed.
So what we're going to do is do like a little live listen. We'll play some of that, and we might talk over the boring parts. But when there's something that needs to be addressed, we'll give it a little old and then we'll talk about it.
We should do all of these topics. Oh my gosh, there's so many. I didn't even know they existed.
Well, that's because they broke it up. They added those later. They did the whole debate, and then they're like, "Oh, this is a topic." Oh,
no. I mean, like for these good faith debates on the Gospel Coalition's website.
Oh, they have a lot of them.
Yeah. How should Christians think about gun control and the right to bear arms?
I can tell you how to do
Is
it.
woke church a stepping stone to theological compromise?
Absolutely.
Absolutely it is. Should the pro-life movement be holistically womb to tomb or narrowly womb focused?
Womb
to
to
tomb. I mean, that's just biblical.
However the Bible works.
How should the church address racial injustice? By not addressing it. Should we insist on
no, they should address racial injustice in Christ. The same way every sin is addressed.
Not the way the TGC wants you to do it.
Oh, my God.
Should we insist on a theological and historical definition of evangelical if many self-described evangelicals see it primarily as a political identity? Who thinks of these questions? This is how you know that someone's fat and happy. They have the time to think of these stupid questions.
Yeah, so, reach out to us. Let us know. Should we do one of each of these? Because we could make a living destroying these ones here with the Bible. God's word first.
Should Christians support tougher immigration laws? Oh, I want to do that one.
We'll step in every can of worms here. Look, we'll open them up. We'll let them
cans, but only
let
2
the worms wiggle out and
try
to get them back in the can. Never get them back in. Oh well,
can't get the worms in the can. They're just wiggling.
Then you just got worms everywhere.
Yeah, good faith worms.
Earthworm Jim. One day. All right, let's get this going, Jess.
Yep.
Let's give it a little starty-arty here for the Gospel Coalition's good faith debate on education and sending your child to public school.
Yes, the topic is: should Christians send their kids to public school? That's how you know it's a serious topic.
Welcome to TGC's Good Faith Debates. These are a series of conversations designed to help you navigate difficult and maybe even polarizing issues in contemporary life and culture. My name is Jim Davis, pastor of Orlando Grace Church, and it is a privilege to be able to be here. And
You know what? He would think it's a privilege. He would think that.
Yeah, more like his white privilege.
Yeah, you know that you have white privilege if your suit jacket matches your suede shoes, and his does.
moderate these debates. The topic at hand today is the education of our children. This is a very passionate and complex issue because this involves those that we love most in the world. And it's complex because there are many different variables based on conviction and context and finances and family dynamics.
Certainly not any biblical
I
application.
was going to say, some of those probably should be God's word and
Yes.
what it says to do.
I would say at least one of those should be.
Well, I guess he kind of lumped it into conviction, but then there was a lot of other.
No, you have a conviction about God's word.
but not. Yeah, okay. Well, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I appreciate today that we get to have Jen Wilkin and Dr. Jonathan Pennington join us to talk about this very important issue. Jen Wilkin is a Bible teacher and author in Dallas, Texas, mother of 5. Dr. Pennington is a professor at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, a pastor and
Southern
father
Baptist
of
Theological
6.
Seminary.
The only
Thank you
one.
so much, both of you, for joining us today.
Oh, no problem, sir. No problem.
So Jen, we'll start with you.
All right, and this is where we get to Jen Wilkin's opening statements.
Her outline of her views on education.
Now,
General arguments.
The only thing I want to preface this section with is that there were clips of this section floating around and of the kind of clips from the entire debate. And the concern from Jen Wilkin and basically every other very soft person in the world, soft evangelical person in the world, was that they were taken out of context.
And maybe it's fair to give background to Jen Wilkin as well.
She is white. That's all you need to know about her.
That's not true. You're really stuck on race. I'm starting to think you're a racial essentialist, and that's really making me concerned.
Maybe we should have a good faith debate about it.
Okay. Well, Jen Wilkin, we do appreciate some of the resources Jen Wilkin has put out into the world, and we don't want to besmirch Jen Wilkin, but we are concerned, like her character or anything, but we are concerned that the views she's espousing in this debate,
Ability to approach the word and think rationally and logically on it.
and then her about this topic. She's done very well about explaining when she is exegeting, she seems to be much more consistent, but as somehow you pull it into practical application and suddenly all the exegesis just goes, where is it? I don't even know.
It was like a vacuum.
Where did I put my exegesis?
It was an exegesis sucking vacuum. This good faith debate was.
And there's there's some other background. I mean, she does go to a church that really struggles through how to identify properly, do church discipline of an elder. Mr. Chandler being that pastor.
Good side.
And at this point, I want to say that we would use her resources cautiously, and if she's going to be giving out an education resource, I may have some questions about it, and we should probably really just
Well, the other thing is that the idea that Jen Wilkin is pro public school shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, I know I've known this for a long time. She's been an advocate for that stance, and I came across some of her resources, ironically, also with the Gospel Coalition, regarding her views on public education and why she thinks that it is what your kids should do if certain things align. So I don't want anyone to think that this is novel. She's thought this way for a long time.
What is your perspective on this issue?
Well, my perspective is heavily autobiographical. Our kids did go to public school, and not only that, but my family is filled with public educators. My mother taught in the public school system at all levels, all of her career. My father served on the school board in our hometown. My siblings and I were all public school educated. I have a brother who is an assistant principal at a public high school. I have a brother who was in the inaugural class of Teach for America. He taught a year in Bedford-Stuy in New York City and a year in rural Arkansas, and ended up with a teaching career in rural Arkansas. My sister-in-law teaches at the middle school in my district right now. My mother-in-law is a retired teacher. My daughter is a chemistry teacher who's taught in the public schools. And I have a nephew who's going to be a history teacher. So we're all in on the public schools in our family. And you can.
She's all in on the public schools and her
All in.
family.
It's almost as if there could be nothing negative to say about public schools because so much of Jen's family is touching the public school realm.
From her brothers to her children to her parents to her father's cousins. It's like,
brothers.
I think she had a pet in there that's teaching in the public schools. Everybody's teaching in the public schools.
Her bearded dragon is also.
And you know, it's funny because I was really thinking like it'd be really awesome. We have 3 educators in our school, in our church, that would be really cool to talk to them and kind of get their perspective. Ironically, we know that the only one of them that has children old enough for school does not send their kids to the public school system.
Actually, there is a statistic on that, actually.
Yes, there
on
is.
This very thing. So a public school parent is twice as likely to not have their children in public education than they are someone who is not a public school parent.
Well, when you're inside of a sinking boat, the first thing you can think of is, I should probably save my family.
Women and children first.
Let's get them out of here.
Women and children first.
So that doesn't make any sense. But I think it's important to point out that she's definitely invested in the public education system, and to have that level of investment, I mean, while it does not necessitate utilizing that resource, it does seem to at least indicate the thinking that was already on the table.
Yeah. All right.
Was in full-time outward-facing ministry, that was met with a lot of raised eyebrows through the years, especially when you have a larger than average number of kids. People immediately assume that if you were a person of strong religious convictions with a large family, you are either homeschooling or doing private school.
For good reason.
And we didn't. And we did choose public school out of conviction, but I always like to make clear up front that we did not have any special considerations in that. Our kids did not have learning disabilities. There were no special concerns that might have played into that decision for us, and I'm very sensitive to that. Not only that, we always lived near excellent
there was no reason for it.
So I would never say everyone should choose public school, but I would say that we should try really hard to, if at all possible.
She's not saying that everyone should send their kids to public school.
Right.
But she should try really, really hard if you can.
Really, really hard.
To get your kids into public
She's about
school.
to tell us why, actually. Justin.
So I know it's just intriguing. I just want to say, in a good faith debate, we can say, she's not saying that everyone should. But
we don't want to misquote her.
If everyone could, that might be all right. All right, go ahead. Jen, continue.
She's not placing any moral value to it.
She's not searing your conscience, but
if
she is saying,
she were God, that's the way she would do it.
Thank you, Jen.
All right, and now, so we're about to resume, and she's about to tell us why she thinks that we should really try, that we should, quote, try really hard to, if at all possible.
Because we believe in the public school ideal. We believe that education is a right. It's necessary for human flourishing. It's good for society. It's a mark of civilization that you have an educated citizenry. And so if that is something that you can see, then you would value that you would have quality education for everyone, if at all possible. And we believed that our participation in the public school system was directly related to loving our neighbors, and so if we could opt in at all, then we absolutely wanted to. So we did. We opted in, and I would say that.
But before.
I was like, when are we going to stop it here? She's saying things.
I know. Well, it looked like she was going to keep going, and she did keep going, but I feel like we should just take a pause for a second.
All right, momentary pause.
So, what she just said was that, and this is not uncommon for those associated with the Gospel Coalition to say, that this is that she believes that this is directly related to loving our neighbor. And that rationale right there gives anyone license to do anything that they so fancy if it falls under the guise of, I believe this is loving my neighbor.
And so that's the kindness of the world, or the 11th commandment, right? Be nice, right? There's that fits right in there, and that is definitely modus operandi for the TGC, generally speaking. When you think about
why should we close churches? Because it's loving our neighbor. Why should we send our kids to the state? Because it's loving our neighbor.
Why should we give reparations?
to love our neighbor.
Why should we be inclusive to gender dysphoria?
Oh, to love our neighbor.
Why should gay people be allowed to be pastors?
Oh, well, it's the best way to love our neighbors in that way.
Why is it that, pedophilia is such a problem when we should allow pastors that have, molested children to repent and move forward in their ministry?
Well, they love our kids, and we should love our neighbors.
It's like, this is not a catch-all for whatever the heck you want to do.
That's what you think.
Her identifying that, and it's not, honestly, I get loving your neighbor. I don't have a problem with loving your neighbor. It's commanded. I encourage you to love your neighbor. But if you're not going to incorporate the truth, you are lying to your neighbor.
Now there is a difference here, and it's very subtle. But this is.
Would you say it's nuanced?
It is nuanced. Yes, it's very subtle that when we as Christians and as educated Christians, as Jen Wilkin is, or as someone who's grown up around Christianity for all their life, throws out this term, right, loving her neighbor. Is she quoting the Bible? Yes. Is she quoting a Bible verse or saying that has a specific context to the thing with which she is talking about? Absolutely not.
No.
So she is not. We should love our neighbors. That scripture has context. That scripture was given to us specific people at a specific time. We need to understand the original authorial intent. All of these things she covers in Women of the Word. Women of the Word. All of these things.
Very
all of these
accurately.
exegetical tools that she just threw out the window.
Yes.
To now bring this into your and my homes and her home as well, and try to apply the concept of what she thinks loving our neighbor. Because see, that's the thing, Justin. Loving our neighbor is never what we think our neighbor should get, is what we do to love them. Because love has a definition and love has a standard, right?
Oh, yeah. The golden standard of love, in fact, the sole standard of love is God.
Is God, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have to then look at what God has to say about the issues that we're talking about, if we can. Some things, obviously, like,
I'm going to remember this exact conversation. I'm going to ask you a question later when she describes why she thinks she's loving her neighbor, because I find it to be wildly historically and biblically inaccurate.
Yes. So I mean, there is very progressive language in the way that she talks about why she thinks that public school should really be tried to be attended by Christian families. Oh man, it was just in my head. What did she say? She said that education is a human right. That there's a responsibility for us as a nation to provide education for our children, that it's necessary to provide a useful citizenry. I don't actually disagree with that. I think when Paul talks about training up your children, that's exactly what he thought. He was borrowing that word from the Greeks, and that word specifically applied to building up a good citizenry. But you don't, never mind. I'm injecting.
You're going a little far.
I know, I am.
All right. Continue on, Jen, before Jesse diatribes and...
Keep on digging this hole.
Someone stop it. Take the shovel.
One of the big things that helped us to be able to say yes to the public schools was that we believed that worldview came from your home. Your worldview and your values came from your home. And I think that that's what everyone believes in the education debate, but I don't know that the public school parent always gets credit for that perspective.
Because that wasn't the public school parent's idea. That was God's idea. Why should the public school parent get credit for that?
Because Jen
Wilkin is a public school parent. I got it. Gotcha. All right.
We did not think that it was a simple matter of just sending them off to get educated and then everything would sort of fall into place. The church would pick up the slack on whatever they needed to get for their Christian worldview. Jeff and I are nerdy
Privileged?
people who like to learn.
Nerdy.
And so our children's love of learning in all likelihood, or in fact I hope, came from the ethos that was in our home. And we knew that that would be a factor in the way that they inhabited a public school space, that if they were in a classroom where that love of learning was not being particularly amplified, that we could pick up the slack at home. We definitely had lots of conversations about everything that they were learning and the social elements as well. But because the education, the quality of education piece was not a question for us, we knew they would get an excellent learning experience, and we welcomed the social aspect of it. The public schools were an easy yes for us in the space that we were in. So the kids.
So the public schools were an easy yes for Jen Wilkin. She believes that theology, the biblical character of the child, comes from the home, which is a biblical concept. And I believe is a biblical concept. But she does not answer the question. So if the biblical worldview comes from the home, and the time spent at home or even around a biblical worldview is wildly decreased by replacing the presence of either the parent, or B, for a Christian educator, is if that is being replaced by someone who is educated and trained in the ways of the state and the state's policies. I feel like that might be considered almost some kind of, I don't know, disservice, perhaps, to lend to the perhaps efficacy, maybe, of the attempt to imbue a biblical worldview at home if you then place them outside of the home or outside of that worldview for an extended period of time. You tracking with me?
I'm tracking with you. What I want to be cautious to say is that there is certainly a realm in which that child will be receiving good instruction that can be building off of what they're already learning at home, if the home is indeed the foundation. And if the home is the foundation, as the home stacking those bricks from the school, they can be stacking them correctly. They can take any of the misshapen bricks and reshape them so that they fit the truth of the foundation. I don't think that's mutually exclusive.
Where is the foundation coming from?
The home.
Oh, okay. All right.
Went all
Didn't I
the
say
way
that?
through public school.
I did say that, right?
Yes, I do have my own personal doubts that it's less like a misshapen brick here and there and more like a building a whole different kind of building type thing.
Well, it does depend on where you're sending your child.
Well, yeah.
School.
For instance, if you live in a very upper middle class Texas metropolis, you could probably find a pretty good public school district with very highly educated public school teachers.
Yeah, but absolutely horrid worldview. horrid worldviews. Anyway, carry on.
I just want everybody to know that even though I am anti-homeschool, I do not think that, or anti-public school rather, I'm very pro-homeschool, that I hold a position where a child cannot flourish in a public school setting. I do not hold that position because I think that's not true. I just want to say that. I want to clear the air.
Some of the issues that are now more emerged in those spaces were already emerging at that time. And so some of the things that we felt were beneficial was that we knew we had to have conversations early. We did not delay on talking about difficult or controversial subjects.
I just have a question for you. Your kids are in Christian school now, right?
Correct.
Christian school. Do you delay having any sort of, important cultural or social or political conversations with your kids? You're just like, we'll table that for later.
No, not at all.
Oh,
like
okay.
we're talking. She's saying that she's saying that the education she put her children through gave her an access to having these types of interactions, more or less.
Sure.
Is what she's saying.
Yeah.
Which is obviously...
She states it plainer later. Right?
Yes. Obviously this is true, but the question is this the only way to have those interactions?
Or is it even the best way to have this?
Also a good question to ask.
And we knew what was going on with the curriculum as well. We had firsthand knowledge of what was going on in those spaces, and we worked hard to make sure that we were up to speed on that. It helped that we had a family member who's in the district who could help us sort through what was fact and what was fiction when everything was blowing up in like a Facebook discussion group in the community to sort of sort out what was really going on. But one of the big benefits that came from having children in the public school system from our perspective was they had an exposure to such a broad array of kinds of people. So that when we had conversations about something that was going on in the culture, or even the hot button issues right now, like sexual orientation, gender identity, all of that, those were not just categories that we talked about, those were people, those were friends. That was an embodied truth. That was someone who sat next to them in class, or it was a teacher. And so...
Yes, and this is her
I
going
was
into
waiting
more
for you to
detail.
go somewhere with that.
This is her going into more detail about what she meant by the previous thing. That I just wanted to say, and that's the purpose of education, in a very sarcastic tone, because that's not the purpose of education. As a matter of fact, she never actually tells us what the purpose of education is, but she definitely carves out education and biblical worldview and instruction. She definitely puts those two things in different pots here.
That's correct. And we'll see that Dr. Pennington will not do that. He will actually put them into the same.
Makes a much better... As a matter of fact, the first time a Bible will be opened is by Mr. Dr. Pennington. So.
We were able to humanize those conversations.
So important.
And,
sorry.
and that was really a gift. Not only that...
I'm so sorry.
There's so many more ways to do this. Like it's just as a parent, if you're like, I'm going to send my kids to public education so they can get a wide array of views and interactions and experiences with things that happen in the world. If you think that that's the way you can do that, or that's the only way, or that's the best way, you're wrong. There are so many other good, helpful ways to have your kids interact with that, right? And look, your kids might still be weird like Jesse's kids, or they could be, perfectly normal like some other people's kids. I'm just kidding. I totally just wanted to tease Jesse. And I picked the worst time because what you can't see is he got a hair in his mouth and he couldn't respond. Oh my gosh. But this is not exclusive to public education.
I feel like Jen Wilkin's next sentence is going to be like, yeah, like when we were trying to talk to them about heroin, we were just like, you need to go out and experience heroin so that you really can understand the human experience of heroin.
We wanted to take the mystery out of drugs, so we just rolled a joint the other night and Thursday, and we just made sure all the kids had a nice little toke.
Yeah, right after we...
This is horrible. This is not how Jen Wilkin sounds, nor is it something Jen Wilkin would do. This is not... This is just a joke. This is just humor. All right.
But it is an analogous argument.
They were around children from different socioeconomic levels. They were around children from different racial communities. They were around special needs children. That's one of my favorite things.
I just want to say this because there's so many inconsistencies with Jen Wilkin's train of thought here that it's impossible to really even try to follow them, let alone critique them. But earlier she said that when she acknowledges that public school is an option that she would really recommend to Christian parents. She said one of the things that she acknowledges is perhaps a barrier was special needs children. Well, here the special needs kids are doing just fine in her school district. Even if you have special needs, that's no barrier. And as a matter of fact, and I know this for an actual fact, at least in our area, is that the public education system has more quote unquote resources for special needs children than Christian schools generally, because they have far more funding than Christian schools.
Correct.
And a lot of times, other than the parent being there, the parent is the one looking for support. And so you don't really have that in homeschool necessarily either.
Right.
At least not in the same way.
Right.
But yeah.
You'd think a church might be able to aid with
You know what?
Children
You
with
would
special
think.
needs are actually in with the other children. They have a buddy system to help
buddy
these
system.
kids, and they're visible in the lives of these kids.
No
every day.
child left behind.
So they also had exposure to
Thank
kids
you,
whose
GW.
home situations were very different than theirs. And one of the things about a public school experience is
One of the things that I, as someone who grew up in a private Christian school, really wished is that I had the ability to understand, the myriads of different life situations that exist. I want to know what an Indian child feels like when they come over to America and join a school. I feel like that was probably integral to my understanding of really just humanity.
Humanity, you say?
Yeah, the human experience.
The human experience.
It's a right. Dang it.
Education?
Education, it's a right.
I think that's a stretch.
Okay.
No
Jen
one is
doesn't.
really pretending. It's all right out there. And
No one is pretending in the public schools, Justin.
I said, at first, as soon as you hear that, the first thing you say is, I mean, except for the kids that think they're, the dudes that think they're chicks and the chicks that think they're dudes. Except for those.
Don't forget about the ones that, even in a couple of our school districts around here, there's litter boxes in bathrooms and stuff like that.
It's like, I think somebody's pretending.
I feel like there's lots of pretending going on. But you know what? Let's continue to hear what she has to say.
And so our kids knew very early what it meant to be aliens and strangers. And that was something that we're able to say to them was a feeling to welcome, not a feeling to push away. That the more different you feel from the people around you, assuming that those differences are rooted in a Christian conviction, then the more you can know that you are probably being conformed to the image of Christ.
This is the second time I've heard her say that. I'm going to back it up because I still have absolutely no idea what she's trying to say.
Assuming that those differences are rooted in a Christian conviction, then that the more different you feel from the people around you.
The more different you feel from the people around you.
Assuming that those differences are rooted in a Christian conviction, then the more you can know that you are probably being conformed to the image of Christ.
So conforming to the image of Christ correlates highly with feeling different than the people around you on a Christian versus non-Christian level?
Jen, I believe, now I'm going to say I believe, because I'm not Jen Wilkin.
Be charitable, because I don't feel charitable.
I believe Jen Wilkin is trying to say that these experiences that she's highlighting, that her children were able to have through the public education system, or, just everyone generally, allow them to be exposed in a way to experience a more complete understanding of what it means, right, to be a charitable Christian, a loving Christian, the image of Christ who loved all, that level.
When I think of the concept of being conformed to the image of Christ, I think of that in terms of like a progressive sanctification kind of way, that we are to be conformed to the image of Christ and that we are constantly conforming to the image of Christ.
Yeah, more so we can know objective ways to do that? You think like clear ones?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think rubbing elbows with a melting pot of people equals being conformed to the image of Christ.
Yeah, let's look at.
There probably weren't a lot of transsexuals around when John was doing his ministry. Like you know what I mean?
Well, that's what I mean. Like you look at Jen, you say, take 2023 Norway. Like, Jen, is it possible for those people to be conformed to the image of Christ since most of their society is homogenous? It's just a bunch of other pasty white Norwegians. Like how are they able to even enfold into that? Right?
Right.
So you go to
Is it even possible for them to love their neighbors?
Is it possible for an indigenous group of people in Australia to become conformed to Christ? Their whole community, their whole small community is a bunch of, heterosexual, indigenous activity. That's all it is. Can they become conformed to Christ since they don't have a good mixture, right, of interactions with other
shared human experiences?
So it's not possible for them to really conform truly, more completely,
or they just can't. Yeah, they can't do it to a more full extent.
It's an incomplete kind of situation. It's just questions to ask for Jen. Questions for Jen.
Very interesting things, because these are reasons why Jen thinks that you should, if at all possible, put your kids in public school. This isn't even this argument is not. It's okay if your family chooses public schooling. This is an affirmative stance to send your children to public education. We must just can't forget that.
And that means being a soft presence, not being a necessarily.
Well, boy, do I agree with that. It's just nothing says soft presence more than the gospel.
I mean, we've highlighted. Look, but I mean, what she's trying, and this is where she's trying to go with this. You have to be a very involved parent if your kid's going to be in public education, which we fully agree with.
Yes.
We have said before that if you are only able to use public school as the option for educating your child, that doesn't mean you have less involvement. That actually means you have more involvement, because it requires you not only to teach your child, right, at home, when you're with them, but it also is going to require you to know what your child is being taught, how your child is being taught, and who is teaching your child. And you're going to have to know all of those things so that you can then unpack that at home. So you don't get to be less involved; you get to be more involved. Homeschooling and public education pretty much take the same. If you're going to do that well, they take the same amount of time as a parent to engage with what's actually going on for your child's education. And if you're not going to be willing to spend the amount of time homeschooling, the question you have to ask is, am I willing to be able to invest that amount of time at my public school board meetings? Am I willing to invest that amount of time in seeing what the class rubrics are and the lesson rubrics are for my kid's classroom? Am I a room mother? Am I a room father? Am I engaged in field trips? Like there's, you're still going to be involved. You don't just get to pass it off. Anyway, they'll talk about that later, I'm sure. We're taking a long time here.
I'm sorry. We're almost through her opening arguments.
Oh, thank heavens.
And we've only been talking for 35 minutes.
And we can just let Dr.
Even
Pennington
a
go.
loud presence. I do think one of the misconceptions about Christian parents who send children to public school is that we've sent them there to be missionaries, to be salt and light.
I'm going to let her finish. But I just want to say that the reason that many people think that about public school parents is that we have been told directly by the public school parents that the reason that they are sending their children to public education is so that they can be salt and light.
But she is saying emphatically that is not the reason.
It's a misconception.
Right.
But she's saying it's a misconception, meaning people think this and it's not true.
Oh, no, I thought what she meant was parents think this, that send their kids to public school, and it's not true. You think she's saying that. Okay, all right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I do.
Send children to public school is that we've sent them there to be missionaries.
Is that we've sent them to be...
Right. Just her, though. Like, she can't speak for everybody, right? That's not right. So she can't actually say it's a misconception for everybody, because some people do think that, right?
I mean, it seems to be what she's applying.
But she's applying it to everybody, which is not good. You can't actually do that. She shouldn't do that. Yeah. She should say it's not a good idea to do that and move forward.
I feel like perhaps some criticism is probably welcomed and definitely
I
not
will
taken out of context.
I will say when you hear why she thinks you should, if you can, send your kid to public school, it actually is this reason. It is this reason. It is to be salt and light. It's just not directly about Jesus giving the gospel, but about making sure the public school has the necessary resources and making sure the education stays high for other less fortunate people. It is still this reason. She just doesn't make it about the gospel directly.
Right. It's the salt and light that
of society.
So she's doing it backwards. She's trying to get She's trying to get cultural. She's trying to bring change to the culture without bringing change to the hearts of the people, and that's just not how it.
All right, carry on.
To be salt and light. And I crack up about that because the kids were actually involved in a Bible study at the school there in high school that was called Salt and Light. And I was like,
almost like people think that.
The reality was we sent them there for an education.
We are supposed to be salt and light, Jen.
We would have a role as their parents probably in being salt and light. And we assumed that if they grew into their faith and did in fact become believers and then mature into that there would be that influence. But we were not trying to send a second grader into a secular space to share the good news. We wanted to train our kids into that so that anywhere they went, that became something that was intuitive. But we were not on mission in that sense in the local school.
See, here's the problem. And this is why when I was chatting with you before we started this endeavor, this is why I think that Jen Wilkin probably has never seriously considered what education is and what her role as a Christian parent is in it is from the scriptures, because anyone who's anyone should know that education is not neutral. That yes, you can mitigate by having a strong family presence and investing in exactly the ways that you just described, by putting the work in, you can mitigate a lot of these worldview issues. But the problem is that these kids aren't going there blank slates and coming out blank slates, coming back to your home, and that's not what you were contending for. The reason you have to work so hard is because the education that they're receiving is contrary to, is anti-God.
Yes, in
statist education is anti-God.
Wherever it is, you have to qualify it. Like, where it's interacting with the laws of physics and objective math. Like these things, it's not messing up. But anywhere it intersects with,
They literally say that 2 + 2 can equal 5 now, Justin. It's
not everywhere. You got to be really.
Not
she is
everywhere,
right
but
that is actually a relative minority opinion still inside of public education.
right. But so was transgenderism 40
No,
years
I agree
ago.
with you.
So I think we also have to.
You're not getting me to disagree with you. I'm just saying I don't want to give any credence where she has a point to allow her to think she's gained a foothold. She hasn't, because anywhere it touches emotions or value-based statements and instruction, it does not come to them with a biblical framework of the sovereign God at all. And therefore, all of those things must be re-educated at home appropriately towards truth. And so even if they're able to walk away with a good concept of geometry, you still have to break down and rebuild their understanding of the psyche of the human soul. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right. And I mean, and that's why I think that there's some misunderstanding. Yes, okay, I hear her saying that she's not sending her kids to be missionaries in the school, which I wholeheartedly believe. I don't think she's being duplicitous with us. I don't think she's lying to us. But I would hope that she would also understand that the content that her children are receiving is often contrary to what a biblical worldview of events are. Take almost anything regarding biology, especially in terms of biology prior to whatever's happening to the thing that you're examining right now. So any sort of evolutionary process that would have to lead up to
any origin theory is based holistically on human perceptions.
But not even origin theory, how we interact with things. We have to interact with things in an evolutionary type way. And so it even affects science that you're doing now. But I mean, so there's that. There's also the history component, which is constantly being rewritten. And all these other things. I think it's becoming more and more. I mean, and they're starting, at least in our school districts in our state, they're starting to talk about gender affirming education as early as kindergarten. So while I appreciate what she's saying in a sense, we also have to say, yeah, but they're not welcoming them with kitten whiskers and feathers and tickle fights. They are attempting to indoctrinate your children.
And that isn't to say that maybe 4 years ago in Dallas, Texas, schools were still relatively conservative and teachers were mostly Christian. And maybe that was all well and good for her 4 years ago in Dallas, Texas. But that was the very last time she had a child in the public education system, was 4 years ago in Dallas, Texas, more or less. I don't know where exactly she lives, but she's from that area.
Well, I mean, public schools in Texas could be very different from public schools in New Jersey. And
right.
So,
but when you live on the
this with a
coast,
grain of
like, you
salt.
have to balance all that's being said. This is why it makes more sense to have a biblical framework where you can have an objective starting point than to go into it saying, well, not all districts think that. And, most teachers are perfectly fine and they're not, crazy, atheistic, hedonistic, humanistic trolls. Like, most of them are wonderful people that will educate your child deeply on the value of true history. Okay, sure. But you're not in Los Angeles, where they spend more money than the Lord has made, and still can't educate children to read. Like, you're not living in Newark, New Jersey. You're not there. You're not in Camden or Trenton. You're not there.
I mean, New Jersey spends one of the highest dollar amounts per student per year of any state in the union, and we still, in terms of comparatively speaking, are regularly being outperformed by not only other nations, but of our own nation's past.
Well, that's just true of almost every school district in America right now. The nation's past.
New Jersey spends over $26,000 per student per year, not including transportation to us.
Like, you can't just map what she's saying into Seattle, Washington. It's not possible. So you have to. That's why if you start with a biblical principle,
right,
that's going to be objectively true no matter where you live.
I wonder if we'll get to Sir Barrington.
Yeah, I hope we get to it at some point, because at some point I got to go. Yeah. I can't sit here all day and do this.
It is quite fun.
I do enjoy it.
Yeah, they all graduated from the public school system with an overwhelmingly positive experience and with a world-class education. And they went on to go to a large public university as well after that. And we look back on it. And
I wonder if Tim Keller's son did too. You know, the guy that posts some pretty crazy stuff on Tim Keller's account sometimes. Yeah, I'm just asking.
And I think now the question that I get most frequently is like, but you wouldn't do that now, right? Like knowing what you know now.
Right.
And
Right?
my answer would be that yes, I would, because I know.
It's like that Star Wars Padme meme.
Right?
You
Right?
You wouldn't send your kids
Right?
to now, right? Anakin just looks at her. She's like,
Right? At this point, it's like, but Jen, like, let's just say
We
you
got to make that meme.
like, let's just say you had a 5-year-old, right? Like 5-year-old in your house. You're starting right now, right? Like, right? You would like, now you wouldn't do that right now, right? Anyway, good.
Wait, I need to make the meme. Hold on. I brought it up. It's fine. Where is this? Okay.
What our school district is and isn't teaching. And what I see happening now around this conversation
What she just said was, yes, she would send it because she knows what their school district is and is not teaching.
is a great deal of misinformation and fear-mongering.
This is all because of Donald Trump. I just would
And I would like to know exactly how she knows. That's very important. You tell me you know. I mean, there are ways to know, but I need to know how. How did you get there, Jen?
I mean, are the people in, Loudoun County, Virginia,
Well, one of the things
fear-mongering,
she said
or-
is, well, we have somebody that teaches in the district. I'm like, okay, does she teach your child? Does she teach any of your children? Has she ever taught any of your children? Well, then you don't really know there, Jen. Like, all right, good. Sorry.
I love the face of this Pennington guy. If you
I
could
do
see my
just want to
freeze frame.
say, Woman of the
That's okay.
Word is a great study if you want to get into the Word and know how to study it well exegetically.
If
Just
you
going
want
to
to
keep saying
watch
that.
if you want to watch someone apply the principles,
That this debate may
don't-
not be the
yeah,
greatest.
no.
portion.
Some of the things even in our own district that parents will say are being taught, I know are not being taught. And what I think is happening is people read an article about something that happened somewhere else,
You mean of someone else's lived experience, Jen?
or they hear a story. There's a lot of hearsay that travels around about what is or isn't going on. And because we live in a time where fear is something that is leveraged at every turn, it takes root, and they end up making a fear-based decision instead of an educated decision.
I
I
see
think
what
there
she
are
did there.
legitimate things to be concerned about with a public school education, but
But nothing nearly as important as loving your neighbor.
whether your district is actually the one that is implementing those things or not is something that you should get firsthand information on.
I agree with
not
that.
have heard about from someone else. And I would also just urge not to contribute to fear-mongering and hearsay if you're a parent who's trying to make those decisions.
If you're reading an article that clearly says what was taught, like let's say in the New Jersey health code guidelines, when you're reading that, like I don't need another source. That's the source. That's what they're telling students they must teach at each prescribed grade level. Or when you read that this is, or when you're on TikTok, not that you're on TikTok, but when you're somebody else who is stupidly on TikTok has already aggregated all these clips of teachers saying things, and you can find out, oh, this teacher's in Texas, oh, this teacher's in Vermont, oh, this teacher's in, and they're wildly lying about all manner of reality because they have accepted the culture of lies and subjective reality. You can feel pretty good about, like, I don't need another firsthand resource. Like, this is what this teacher says. And then when you actually understand history, Jen, you can understand why teachers teach that way. It's because our higher education institutions were taken over by Marxists, right, from the Frankfurt School, beginning back in the 30s and 40s when they came over during the World War II. So, like you start examining, you're like, oh, that's how higher education is going. That's who is instructing our teachers. And that's why we have teachers' videos on TikToks where they're saying, I came out to my students today and it was so amazing. They were so affirming and they all love me for who I am or who I think I am today. And I may think differently tomorrow, but this is what they've accepted now. And hopefully when I change it again, they can accept that too. Like we have these TikTok videos. We've seen them. Inside the classroom. Here's my classroom. It's gayer than gay's ever been gay. Look at all the rainbows. And I just keep thinking, like, Noah will kill you.
My kindergartners pledge allegiance to the gay flag. Yeah, they were confused for the first little while. Now they think it's fine.
Now I've got them believing it's the American flag.
These are my kids.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
All right. Stop.
Recently put some information on this perspective up in my stories on Instagram, and I don't spend enough time on Instagram for the algorithm to feed me a lot of attention. And so when I say that I got hundreds of DMs in response to what I put up in support of public schools, that is not.
I wonder if they're gonna take her down and not affiliate her with the Village Church for the amount of DMs she's getting on Instagram.
I wonder if any of those came from a man she was involved with or knew tacitly.
That her husband and also the other man's wife
Also knew that she was being DM'd.
Sorry.
Not normal for me.
Church
And
discipline,
almost
or
all of them
some
were
view of
from
it.
Christian teachers in the public
Call it
schools
CD light.
who said, I have been vilified and maligned by my Christian community because I teach in the public schools.
All right, pauses. Don't do that. Like, that's not right. You don't vilify people for their choice. You can talk to them. You can encourage them. You can nurture them towards maturity in Christ. And I think we've been able to do that with just about everyone that instructs in education in our school. But we're not going to vilify them. Like, I'm like, you know what? You're an evil sinner because you're showing up at the Church of Satan every day and sacrificing babies on the altar. Like, that's not what you don't do that.
Right. I mean, we've and I think we've clarified this in past podcasts because we have literally, we had at one time 3 public educators in our church, in our small church. 4. Well, we currently have 3, and now we used to have 4. But yeah, the conversation is always, you can critique the public education system certainly without vilifying each and every individual teacher, because I do have very good faith that I would probably say most teachers go into it because they want kids to have better lives.
Yeah, and like if you really wanted to like bring salt and light into the public education system, I would say stop sending your kids and start training educators and send in full-grown adults who understand apologetics into the public education system. Now, you're going to have a huge bench because they're going to keep getting fired, but you just keep throwing them in there, and eventually you probably start to see the public education system start to change. But is that actually what Jen wants to see?
No.
That's the question. We're not even to that part yet. Like,
man.
you have
We ain't
to
getting
get
to
to
it
it
today.
No, we're going to have to wrap this up at some point. This may be a 4-part episode.
You know what's kind of funny? And I would assume that this is not true of Christians who get education degrees and go into, because Christians are different.
Correct.
Or should be different.
Amen.
But ironically, do you know what the lowest scoring college degree is?
Yes.
What is it?
Education.
No, it's not.
Oh, dang.
It's social work. Do you know what the second lowest?
I do know that the degree that carries with it the lowest burden of requirement and involvement is education.
Yes, they're also the second lowest scoring high school.
It's not that it's not that you're not involved, because you do have to go into your practicum. You have to go into the public classroom. That part is really involved. It's the level of scholastic involvement that you have to become an educator is much less.
I mean, I've heard from teachers just personally that it's mostly about like classroom management, not
right. And now it depends, because if you're going to go ahead and teach high school, you have to actually have a bachelor's in that subject area.
Right.
So at that point, you have to, which is why it's hard to find math teachers, because once you've got your bachelor's in math, you're an engineer. You just don't go like, I'm going to sign up to make way less money, or I'll just go to school for one more year and make way more money. Yeah. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, we've got. Hold
She
on.
about done
It's-
yet here? Gee whiz, she's just rambling now.
Man, we've got 4 more minutes of her talking, and we've got not a lot of minutes left of our time.
Of our life for
And
this
that's
episode.
not right. I mean, so I think one of the things
We
I
agree
would
that that's
love
not right.
to have entered into this conversation is that while I cannot tell you to put your children in public school, and certainly never would, because there are so many factors that are at play, that it is important for us to understand that our decision regarding this and even our demeanor toward this has an impact on our community. It doesn't just impact our family. The most common phrase I hear thrown out in these conversations is, well, I just need to do what's best for my family. And I think that's something that as Christians we have to push back on. Philippians tells us each of you should look not just to your own interests, but to the interests of others. And
Does that have a context?
Probably not.
The answer is yes, it does. And whose interest are you supposed to look out for?
Not your own.
Yeah, that would be Ephesians chapter 2. Yeah, that's Ephesians chapter 2. Right before...
It's in Philippians 2.
Oh, it's Philippians 2. Sorry. Ephesians chapter 2 is not where that is. It's in Philippians chapter 2. Right before we get the hypostatic union passage. You know, God, where Jesus doesn't believe his godhood is something to be grasped. Right before that, in Philippians chapter 2. Are you there yet?
Yeah. Philippians 2 verse 4 is where it says it. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interests of others. So starting back in verse 1.
There you go.
So if there is any encouragement in Christ, any comfort from love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy, being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also to the interest of others.
There's a specific context. The context is Paul talking to the church at Ephesus and telling them that Philippians. Why do I keep doing this? Because we're studying Ephesians advanced group, and I can't get out of it. We haven't left chapter 1. It's been a month. Because he's telling the Philippian church that this is how they need to treat each other. This is how they should treat each other. Put the other person's needs first. But she wants to say that you should put strangers in your town's needs ahead of your own children,
or even the children of the other, even the children of your other
of the stranger
church members,
right?
Even
right,
well.
Sure. Like at some point, you have to also know that God's called you to. She's given those kids to you. He's entrusted them to you. You are responsible to God for the care of those children. So, like, you have to balance that thinking. Certainly, I'm going to, as often as I can, put the needs of others ahead of my own. But the first people God's given me to put the needs ahead of my own is my wife and my kids. They're the first ones. And then the next people are my extended family and my church family. Like, that's it. That's who I put ahead of my own needs. Not like Sarah Bodinkin that lives, 6 blocks away. I'm like, you know what? I should find out. I should do this just in case it would put her child's needs ahead of my own. Just in case, because I don't know, but it might. Like, that's not how this verse works. Anyway, so do you think we should table this and go ahead and get Dr. Pennington's views next time?
I mean, we're going to have to. Yeah.
Okay.
We still have 3 more minutes of Jen's personal feelings on the matter.
Oh gosh.
I say personal feelings because literally all she's done is.
Well, I'm willing to give her 5 more minutes of my time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, let's go.
Maybe we can get through it.
There's no such thing as a decision that's made just for our families. In
Sure there is. What color shirt my kids are going to wear today?
fact, even having the gift of the decision at all means that you're a person with more choices than some people. And those who don't
about
have
equity.
a choice of where they will educate their children will be impacted by your presence, your adult parent presence not being in the public schools because you've chosen to go somewhere else. We can look back in not too recent history on this and see the impact of when a large number of Christian parents decide to opt out of the system and how it impacts those who are left behind. And
I'd love
so
to
I
read
do
that
think
study.
it's very important for us to understand that while, yes, we do what
Because it does probably exactly what I want to have happen to the education system.
Yeah, it gets really horrible. All the resources dry up.
If just the Southern Baptists pulled all of their children out of the public education system at one time, it would collapse and we would have to completely redo the education system in America, which I think
Maniacal laugh.
is the exact thing that needs to happen.
what is best for our families, we don't do so in a vacuum. We understand that what we do for our family always impacts the community around us and that we should look to the welfare of the city in which we live. And that there are a lot of ways to do that, even if I realize that.
She keeps talking because I think that she realized that she dug herself into a hole. She's like, how do I just
explain this?
I just got to keep talking and talking and
Whereas
talking.
Dr.
I'm using
Pennington's
my
like,
hands,
well,
using my
here's
hands.
Deuteronomy 6, and, well, go ahead, Jen. What do you think about that?
My kids cannot go into my public schools, and I do know what that looks like. I have a brother who lives in a very rural setting. I do know what that looks like. But even if I realize that my own children will not be going to those education spaces, how can I, as a person who cares for the widow and the orphan, who cares for the fatherless, how can I be a person who still maintains a giving presence in that space? How do I support the teachers? How do I support the administrators? How can I volunteer in ways that are...
I'm almost positive that those passages are still within the context of the local church.
I mean, like, I'm also okay with what she's saying here. Like, oh, if you don't send your kids, you should still know what's going on locally.
Yeah. Well,
Like, for example, I know that my school board is now dramatically changed from what it was when I started, from when I first went to the board meeting. Remember when I went to the board meeting? Mm-hmm. Like, as of that day, there was one conservative board member, and they put him in transportation. That's what they relegated him to. Now, after several election cycles, he's the president of the school board, and there's 3 other conservative members on the school board of a 5-person board. So, like, now guess who's in charge of transportation? It's the crazy former president of the Women's World Organization. She can go do transportation because we're not going to let her do textbooks anymore.
is that why there were rainbow school buses driving?
That's not true. That's an over-exaggeration. There was no rainbow school buses.
They're going to bring life into a system that does serve the last and the least. Even if I can't convictionally say I could put my own.
She's not helping. Here I am trying to abolish government education, and here she is feeding the system.
Tink. Oh, that's the sound of her shovel hitting a rock. She keeps digging.
Kids there. And then just in closing, I would urge charity. And I know that these are good faith discussions, not bad faith ones. So I'm going to just
Dr. Pennington
think
was like,
that
oh,
this
thanks
is a good
for
place to be
reminding
able
me.
to just
I'm about to
acknowledge
talk.
that there is a way to follow our convictions for our family.
If you watch the video, you can see that guy have to kick him to wake him back up. Oh, crap. Oh, all right.
Not have to malign the decisions of others in doing so. Particularly when it comes to public school, I think we're of the public, private, or homeschool options. I think we're the punching bag right now. There's no
learn
reason
their
that we wouldn't
stereotypes, I guess.
support teachers who love the Lord, who have stayed convictionally in those
Well, of
spaces.
course,
There's
yes.
no
That's
reason,
true.
and yet that's they hear things like the hellscape that is the public schools. That's one of the epithets that I've heard
mean-
thrown out there.
Look, oh my gosh. All right, this is the last thing. Then I'm done. I'm out. Like, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, I'm done. I'm good with Jen. I just want to get to Dr. Pennington next time. But here's the thing. I'm not upset with you. And Jesse and I may differ on this. Like, I believe that there's a way to send your child to public education. I do. And I believe sometimes that's where you're at. And I think Jesse and I can disagree on that and it be okay. Like, the world isn't over. And also I believe that if you're going to do that, the bar is incredibly high on you. So you are going to you're required to be engaged. That's not where the big issue is. Just because I can disagree. I can say, like, that is still the least. That is my actual least preferred method for anyone to go. If they can possibly avoid it, avoid it. Like, avoid it. I'm the opposite of Jen. Whereas Jen says, if at all possible, we should. I'm saying, if at all possible, don't do that. Because until we can actually incorporate and change it, this is where it's going, and it's not going good.
Amen. Yeah, I think we should probably just stop.
I think this is plenty for you to think about. We're not saying it's wrong.
There's only one more minute over here.
None of it. No. Nope.
All right.
We're not judging you if you send your kid to public school. That's not what the goal at all. In fact, if you need resources to help engage and ways and methods on how to engage, we actually outlined that in our 3rd episode of this podcast we ever did, was on education and ways in which you need to be involved in the 3 different formats, whether public, private, or homeschool. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. Next week, we'll do Dr. Pennington's response and hopefully dive into some of these topics.
Yay.
Yay.
But until then,
we hope that you, dear Christian, will seize the faith.